Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Atkinson with MJA Real Estate, and I'm super excited to participate on 2016's Cash Flow Wealth Summit. Wanted to thank Patrick Donahoe and his team. They've done a great job of being able to put on this information for those of you guys that are wanting to increase your cash flow and also want to, I'd like to say, live a more abundance lifestyle. So, a little bit about myself and how this is important information for you is I have a mortgage background, and I actually met Patrick Donahoe in 2005, 2006. And what's really unique about this is by meeting Patrick Donahoe, we both were mortgage lenders for the same company. And one of our mutual friends named Garrett White, he was my college roommate in 2000, yep, 2000, so 16 years ago. And he worked with me. He was actually the first mortgage broker that I brought on at the beginning of 2002. And why I'm sharing this with you is then he came and went and came back and worked with me again, and then he started working with Patrick Donahoe. So my background is mortgage broker for going on 15 years, excuse me, this December. So that's a cool background with this. A little bit more of information is why I'm sharing this with you is I like complementing real estate investing, and I first started off with buying and holding, and then I started fixing and flipping. And I started doing that in 2004. And the reason why I'm sharing that with you is not a lot of mortgage professionals or just professionals in general take the time to complement retirement, and I'm a little different. Here's my disclaimer real quick is all this information, you should talk to an accountant, legal advisor, blah, blah, blah. CYA, which means just cover your assets, okay? So we want to make sure we're covering our assets. So there's that information, and here's a little cool character. The reason I like this is ever since I was younger, people thought I was a character, had a funny personality. So there's some information with me. So back with this info is I started being a mortgage broker in the end of 2001, and I used to write mortgages all throughout the United States. And how I met Patrick Donahoe and my friend Garrett White is we were a national mortgage lender, which we still are today. I'm not going to talk about much about mortgages, but I'm going to talk about how it influences real estate investing. But Patrick Donahoe used to do mortgages nationally also, and I understand he does a great job with insurance. So in 2004, I bought my first property, and in 2006, which I think is really ironic, 10 years ago, I was really aggressive and bought 12 rental properties. And I can honestly say I still own, I'm very fortunate, I still own all of my properties still that I bought in 2006. And I survived the crash or the correction. So I've been watching 14 years of mortgage change. And what's really cool with that is I used to be, as I did loans on a national basis, I just started working with a lot of real estate investors. And one of Russ Whitney was a preferred coach at the time that I was his mortgage guru that his students would call. And I learned a lot about cash flow, lots of different comments about flips and buy and holds and notes and tax liens and commercial, and I was like, wow, there's just tons to learn. So I focused that there's so much to learn. I just wanted to continue in my market, but I talked to a lot of real estate investors who are newer, who wanted, or even seasoned ones who wanted to increase cash flow, and they always had challenges with traditional mortgage financing. So with that, I've closed over 1,200 mortgages. I did my first flip in 2007, and I made a whopping 500 bucks. And I'm going to share 3 tips with you quickly on my first flip. Number one is we took too long to remodel it, right? Like most people. Number 2 is when the market in 2007, I live in Utah, the market started going down right in 2007 to 2008. We were about 18 months to 24 months behind some other parts of the country. So we didn't do price reductions quick enough because the market shifted down so low. Then we did the market change. But I sat on it. So tip number 2 is make your price reductions before the market does it for you. And then tip number 3 is do your best not to hold inventory over the winter. Okay, so there's 3 quick tips on flipping. Back with this, so a couple years later, I was like, hey, I started meeting all these investors. So I've been a mortgage broker going on 7 years at that time. I'd owned rentals 3 years, and I liked helping people because they just didn't know any better. And I was like, hey, I could help them. If I've bought 13 or 14 houses and you're working on your first and second, let me share these tips with you that will help increase your cash flow. So why I'm sharing this with you is a lot of real estate investors that are newer think about buying and holding or fix and flipping. Buying and holding, most investors want the cash flow, where fix and flippers, they need more money so then they can earn money for cash flow. So I like thinking local. I do have some friends that buy properties all throughout the nation. What's good with that, though, is they become an expert in their area. And if you're going to buy, there's tons of people all throughout the country. I like buying, when I say I'm a local investor, I'm a local coach, your local could be in other markets. So, for example, if you're in California, Southern California, I've got a friend there that it's too expensive there, so he buys in Utah and he buys in the Midwest. So I'm okay that you aren't living in the area, but just vet the area and develop those relationships with the local people, because then you can buy properties also. So there's some examples that I like. Another comment that I think is really important when you're accumulating wealth is be familiar with the areas that you're looking at. If I was going to buy my portfolio all over again, my first rental property that I purchased was about a 45-minute drive in Utah, and that's a long drive for me 14 years ago or so, 13 years ago, excuse me. And why I'm sharing that with you is my personal opinion is if you're going to buy where you live, buy within a 30-minute driving distance, or more specific, I like to call it a sandbox, a place you like to play, because it helps you get a lot more familiar with different areas. So there's some tips with you. I'm going to focus on just 2 primary strategies, but I want to kind of touch on some of these that I've done. Right now, we've bought and hold up to 76 rental properties. Most of them are single-family residencies. There are some multi-units, 1 commercial property. I've flipped, about 75 properties. I got all these like in the 70s. It's kind of weird. 75 fix and flips. In the last 2 years, my team, we started focusing on or making complementary wholesaling. And the reason why we did that is we had a lot of opportunities that we just turned down that we knew we could put the deal or opportunity together and provide them to other people. And then obviously there's bird dogging and lease option notes and holding notes. I've done some of those. But what we're going to primarily focus on is how to increase your cash based on knowledge. And then more importantly, based on knowledge, actually implementation. So why I'm sharing this with you is I'm giving you an example. I know every market is different on rentals. I talked to a real estate investor today that they live in Kansas City. They used to live here in Utah, and they're considering buying rental properties for like 60 grand versus 160 grand a year. And there's pros and cons to different market, but I'm going to use this example here in Utah and other parts of the market for what most people do. So right now, you can get traditional financing buying a property for $180,000. You put normally 10% down, so you're going to have a mortgage note of $144,000. A lot of newer real estate investors are over improving the properties that they're getting traditional financing on because they don't know any better. A lot of times they're putting more money into them than they should, and they are just increasing their out-of-pocket investment and decreasing their cash-on-cash return and other things. So in this example, if you bought a property and you put 20% down, including $10,000 for rehab, that's a total investment of $46,000. Now the payment at $751 is based on a 4.75% interest rate. Taxes and insurance are $150. So basically, your payment is, for this example, $900 a month PITI. The rent in our market, you could rent for $1,200 a month. Now, if you look at your cash-on-cash return of $46,000, This doesn't include vacancies and management and other things like that. I'm just giving you one simple way that most people that I know that are less experienced don't calculate ROIs, but they're cash flowing 7.8%. It's decent. So that's a lot of investors that are new are doing right now, and it's not bad. It's good. At least you're playing the game. I'm going to show you a different way how I bought properties, just to show a different way to go about doing things. Okay, so I like calling it Matt's way. There's some online information. I started doing this in 2005. Yeah, actually 2005 when I bought a couple more properties. As a mortgage lender, I was like, I didn't want to put all this money down on a property and then put improvements in, because for some oddball reason, I always wanted to buy a deal, quote deal. So what was the deal? Well, a house that was hammered that I wasn't going to live in. Now I would say an opportunity, which I like better, is a property that's going to satisfy my portfolio, hits my goals that I want to do, and other things. So if we're comparing just side by side, how I'm buying properties instead is one way. There's a lot of ways. A lot of properties I buy now with seller financing and bundle commercial financing, but this is a great way to build up your portfolio of 10 rentals, in my opinion. Is I bought a property for $130,000. Okay, now the ARV, after repaired value, is higher, and I'll show this with you after. So I buy the property for $130,000. I'm going to have money rolled into the loan of $10,000. That includes hard money costs and refinance costs. Now here's what's really cool. My initial investment is only $20,000. And the reason why is that's what the improvements I'm going to do to fix up the property. A couple improvements I like is, and I'll focus more on what type of improvements to do, but and I've helped a couple hundred investors do this here in my market, is you want to not totally remodel the house that you want to flip it. You need to strategically do what's called forced appreciation and make the improvements to get the biggest bang for your buck, and then also increase the value. Okay, so your out-of-pocket's $20,000, your total investment's $20,000 because you're financing the 140. Your PITI is a little bit less because you're buying it or you're refinancing it for 140 versus your mortgage note of 144. So your payment is basically $20 less. In this example, I know I'm off a dollar. Is $20 less a month times 12 is $3,840. Here's what's awesome. My initial investment is only $20,000. So if I only invest $20,000, my cash-on-cash return is 19.2%. Okay, question number one. What do you want your cash-on-cash return? Would you rather have 7.8% or 19.2%? So the reason why I'm asking you is if you were sitting in front of me, this is a lot of meat to go over right now based on what you want your cash-on-cash return to be. With that being said, some people don't like to do, now remember, we're focusing on cash flow, okay? I don't have tons of money laying around, burning a hole in my pocket. I did when I was a little younger, had less commitments, and I didn't have budgets. But you can bleed through property really quick if you're putting 46 grand into multiple properties. So why I'm bringing this up is there's not a bad way to buy traditional. I like buying traditional as long as you don't have to put improvement costs in. Then your ROI goes up. But a lot of people that I know, newer investors and even sometimes seasoned investors, get emotional with it. They don't make good improvements. And then the second example is on the buy and hold strategies is this is a great way to buy properties. So my suggestion as you're building a portfolio, I'm 38 years young, is I like finding better value, or I like solving problems. I also like to put the least amount of money out of pocket, period, for either down payment or initial investment. For seller finance properties, in this example, we're talking primarily about buying and holding with hard money. And then also, I like to do forced appreciation that you can do what's called capital improvements. I would write that down, what a capital improvement is versus an expenditure. As you hold properties over time, I like having capital improvements for tax purposes because it will help offset my basis when I sell. And then I also, as you notice, we invest less cash out of pocket, and I want to realize a better rate of return. So with that being said, here's a cool example. I like showing houses. So here's a property I purchased. You love the beautiful mountains. Thank you. Here's a property I purchased actually 5 minutes from my house where I grew up. I don't live there any longer. But why I'm sharing this with you is this gives you a cool example of what an outside house was. This was a flip. But we painted the exterior. When I was younger, I would have put siding on it. There wasn't a need to. The asbestos shake was in good condition. And then we painted the black soffit fascia eaves part. If you notice to the house to the left, on the house that's red, the garage is black, the gable. And what's cool is we've painted a lot of houses. When you try to paint a lighter color, over a darker color, you got to use a lot of coats of paint. So why I'm bringing that up is I wanted to not use so many coats of paint, so I just gave you a tip. Sometimes we do darker colors with that. But this gives you a cool example of a property that we buy. Cool story real quick with this also is I actually bought this property from going to your local RIA. I'm on the board of 2 RIAs in Utah. I'm the president of UV RIA, Utah Valley Real Estate Investors Association, and I'm on the board of SLA RIA, Salt Lake Real Estate Investors Association. I've been on the board of the first one for going on 4 years and the second one going on 8 years. So it's good to be exposure and also just good for networking. So here's a cool property. Another property why I like sharing this is, man, you can learn so much from other people with what they do. And it's good, yeah, you can look at sometimes TV on Flip This House or other stuff like that. But you can learn a lot from other investors in other markets of what to do better. So why I'm sharing this with you, when I first started, I would have totally demoed these cabinets. Now, in this appraisal, this is forcing appreciation. If you can tell or not, what we did is we put new vinyl in vinyl. Actually, this is laminate. I love vinyl now. The vinyl looks awesome in our market. But I don't love laminate in rentals. And why this is important for cash flow is you need to take into consideration what's going to wear the best and have you earn the highest rate of return. And also, you don't have to do a lot of maintenance on. So in this example, we bought the property, we stained the cabinets, we put crown molding on, and we put new hinges, and they look awesome. And then if you'll notice, we put new laminate down, which is way better, and we forced the appreciation to get a higher ARV when we refinanced. And I'll go into how that works in a second. So why I'm sharing this as an example, oops, sorry about that, as an example of a fix and flip. The reason why I think of both houses is if your sales price or ARV is $200,000 and we're focusing on cash flow, I always take 10% off the top, and I like breaking it down a little more because some of you guys are realtors and you can actually you need to pay yourself as a realtor. And the reason why is what you pay in taxes as a realtor could or not be higher than what you pay taxes with short-term capital gains, long-term capital gains, and ordinary income if you're considered a dealer. Obviously, consult your tax preparer for your situation. With that being said, I take 10% off the top. The rehabs that we're doing right now are normally between $25,000 and $35,000 to $40,000. It's hard for me to do rehab for less, even though I can sometimes because it's just hard for me to do it for less. Hard money fee, I like paying. We're calculating $8,000. Obviously, if you have your own cash, you would be paying. You'd be getting more profit. Here's a cool thing that we've been doing the last couple of years. Is we take what's your cash on cash return. Obviously, if you're all cash in, your actual ROI decreases. A lot of people, including yourself, might already know that or might not think about it. The other comment, which is cool, is I like you have to buy a property really low. So if you think about it, how many times are you able to buy properties for 120 grand? put $30,000 into it, get a hard money loan, and get a net profit of $22,000. That's pretty sick. So it's a great way to complement your full-time job. It's a great way to complement what you're doing normally. So there's a lot of different ways to invest. Why I'm sharing that with you is I love this house. This house, I love this house. I threw some houses in here that we met through meeting investors at your local RIAs. So short version with this is why it's important is I met this investor, I don't even remember his name. He showed up once or twice at the RIA, but he worked at Zions Bank, I remember. And he showed me this house, and this is the year before I started flipping homes. And I was like, holy cow, this is way over my head. So ironically, in 2008, I drove by this house, driving for dollars with one of my friends, and I called on the FSBO sign that was still in the yard, and the guy dropped so from 2007, actually from 2008 to 2009, excuse me. So what did the market do? It dropped. So the seller also reduced his price. So I'd already been through the house before. Good tip, always take photos of your properties or videos while you're looking at them, because you never know when you can look at them again and buy them. So I've got a lot of videos on properties that we own. So why I'm bringing this up, though, this gives you a good example of a fix and flip. This was actually our 4th fix and flip we'd ever done. We felt super confident. We probably made like 12 to 13 grand, but not a lot. But we learned a lot of what to do with investing. So why I'm sharing this with you as we think about cash flow is sometimes you don't always make money on your fix and flip. So here's an example. Here's another property that we bought that was a fix and flip, and we did everything. New tile, we actually put new plumbing in, new tub. We kept the toilet seat, if you can tell. Just kidding. But there's a lot of stuff that you need to take into consideration when you're fixing and flipping properties. So why I'm bringing this up, got my fat finger too quick, risks and benefits. So I think this is important for people to take into consideration as they're investing in real estate. So holding benefits, there's taxes, cash flow, equity growth, appreciation, increased worth, long-term wealth creation. A couple other things I think. I was talking to a business acquaintance of mine here in Utah. He does a lot of real estate transactions. He's young. He's like 36 maybe, 37. But he said, I buy properties and put them on 15-year mortgages because it forces me to save. It's a different way to look at it, okay? So there's definitely some benefits with cash flow. As you guys are learning from this wealth summit, the Cash Flow Wealth Summit, there's a lot of different opinions on how to accumulate wealth, so you need to determine what's the best for you, and you'll get a lot of cool options with how to go about doing that. Here's some risks about holding rentals. Property management, tenants, property maintenance, vacancies, vandalism, and market change. And the reason why I like market change is I was talking to an investor this morning, and she was concerned that we were at the peak. And I think those are valid concerns, but the reason why cash flow is so important is if we have a correction on your asset, it doesn't matter as much of what your property's worth as long as you're still cash flowing. So that's my opinion. Now, obviously, when you sell, you got to take that into consideration. But each market's so different. That's why you got to take into consideration, knowing your market. I think it's also important to vet what the market did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and 30 years ago, and study the economic factors on why the market changed, and also check the market that you're going to live in of what the growth is and projected growth. There's a lot of smart, intelligent people that all they do is put data together for this information. So what's cool with this is fix and flip and benefits. Here's some benefits versus risks. You have quicker income, higher profit immediately, no tenant landlord, less term exposure, rehab education. And the reason why I put rehab education is you learn a lot about rehabbing houses. So the risks with that is market fluctuations, no long-term wealth creation. budgeting, timing issues, hazardous substances, lack of renovation. So a couple of comments that I want to make with this for you guys in each market. In Utah, so I'm going to think of six different items that are hazardous substances. So number one would be meth, mold, lead-based paint, termites. I'll tell you why termites is a hazardous substance, because you really can't see them unless you get on your hands and knees. Bed bugs, asbestos. I think that's all of them off the top of my head. Is that 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Cool. I wrote it down as I shared this. Why I'm bringing this up is we want to have good properties for other people, and sometimes those can be expensive. The other times, now here's a question. What is a hazardous substance I missed? And I'm going to let you guys email this to me after. What is a hazardous substance you missed? I thought of 2. So there's one specifically I didn't say on purpose that I want to see who can email that for a gift. And then lack of renovation experiences is definitely a, man, you can lose your shorts or you can earn a lot. So it's just relative to what you want to do. Remember, real estate investing is about learning, growing, and maximizing opportunities from others, okay? So with that being said, how I built my portfolio is I bought 22 rental properties first before I flipped a house. And I bought all of them with hard money and refinanced off hard money. And why I'm bringing this up is I learned really well on how to vet properties. A couple tips that I'd share with you right now is number one is whoever's selling you the house, get comps from someone who is not financially compensated to sell you the house. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is in life, sometimes when we want someone to help them own an asset, we show them all the data and we want them to buy it. It's good to get a second opinion. So get comps from another source. It's a tip that I have. Number two is I like getting interior comp photos in my market so I have an idea of what the other remodels look like. Super important. Actually, that's so important, I'm adding that to my presentations moving forward. So I'm glad I just gave an example of interior comps. One other third reason why I'm bringing this up is I believe holding rentals, I don't believe it's true, will help you accumulate so much more wealth over time. Me buying the 22 properties first before I did flips, man, I still own all of them except for one. And last year I sold one property and bought 7 doors from it, a 4-plex, a duplex, and a single-family residency with a 1031. So there's a lot of cool things you can do by holding that asset, okay? They're all seller financing. So with that being said, here's some holding versus flipping, other things to consider. Long-term cash flows help you finance future projects. So what I do, and this is important with cash flow, I use the extra money from my repair or my extra cash flow to buy more assets. So the more lean I can run my properties, the more assets I buy, because that's what I'm growing. Number two, I love baseball, hoping to go to the World Series on Saturday, even though I live in Utah, so think about that one. Got to catch a flight soon. So with home run strategies is most games are won with base hits. So, or in football, inch by inch. And then I also like to learn to manage my money in my projects. I was chatting with the real estate investor yesterday, and they were surprised with all the improvements I knew. They were surprised because they're like, holy cow, we would have over-improved these properties. So you learn how to determine what stuff costs, and you want to know it's a good opportunity for your own home also. So it's important to know. So in sharing that, a couple things that I think is really important before you determine to buy and hold versus fix and flip, and obviously it's super important to know about cash flow, but anytime someone brings me an opportunity, the first two questions I literally ask is, what is the property worth and what can I get it for? What is the property worth and what can I get it for? I don't care as much about it's 4 bedrooms, it's 2 baths, it's on a 1/4 acre lot, it's next to a park. I want to know, what is that property worth and what can I get it for? And why that's important is I want to know how to vet properties quickly so I can make an informed decision. The other comment that I think is really, really important is when I first started, I'd run around all over the place and have less experience on what to do. Now I'm not running around all over the place, and I'm using this information to my advantage, and it helps vet my time. So here's a cool example of a property. What is it worth? What can I get it for? And I'll share how I bought it. So, wow, wow's right. Holy cow. So this is a sad, good scenario. Sad based on the circumstances, good because we solved some problems. So we bought this property from a realtor, brought us this property that went on a bus tour that I did. And she knew of an elderly lady who her disabled daughter lived with her, and here, this is where they lived. And what's sad is the elderly lady and the disabled daughter didn't have a lot of help, or the family members didn't realize that the things were this bad. So we took a photo of this property, so here's how I bought it. I bought it with photos, videos, and comps. Is that sick? Photos, videos, or comps. Now, obviously, I've bought a lot of properties, but if I have photos, videos, and comps, I know what to fix and how much stuff normally costs, okay? With that taken into consideration, if you can tell, write down 5 things, and you're going to email this to me. Write down 5 things that you saw that I did to the property from before and after photos. So what are 5 things that you see that I did to the property? And this is extremely important about cash flow, because it's not what you know, it's what you know and what you do, okay? So what are 5 things you see that I did to the property? Okay, I'm going to name as many as I can right now. Number 1, I trashed it out. Number 2, I refinished the cabinets. Number 3, I added 2 cabinets on. On the white cabinet where the L shape is, if you kind of notice, it's a little longer or deeper. And then over the microwave, we have a shorter cabinet because before it was a little longer. So we added cabinets. Number 2. Number 3. Sorry, we're on number 3. Number 4, my brain. Number 4, we painted the house. Number 5, we changed out the lights. Number 6, we changed out the faucet. Number 7, we added granite. Number 8, we put in laminate. I apologize, you can't see all the junk, but we did put in laminate. Number 9, because the light is so bright, we did change the windows. And number 10, we have new appliances. So here's what's awesome. That kitchen probably cost me $4 grand. Probably $2,000 for painting the cabinets and adding them. The paint included painting the whole house. The granite was probably $1,500, so that's $3,500. The appliances were probably $1,000, $1,200, plus miscellaneous stuff with that. Here's what's cool. We sold this house like within a week. Results not typical. We sold this house within a week, and the house actually did not come in at the appraised value. So being a mortgage broker that I am, I was okay with that, and we dropped the price a couple $1,000, but we were happy. So here's what's cool. Hopefully, actually not hopefully, you guys learned a lot from that. So number 1, this is why real estate investing and cash flow is so important. Number 1, we solved the problem for the seller. So your number one objective as real estate investors is to solve problems. Now, some of you on the call might not want to be interested in solving problems. You want cash flow. That's totally okay. That just means you're going to earn a lesser rate of return, which is okay because it's not something your core competency or something you want to do all the time. Okay, number one, we solved the problem. Number two, we were easy to work with from the realtor. We were easy to work with from the realtor. Number three, we performed. We performed with the seller and the realtor, and they were happy. Number four, we gave a lot of people work, so we helped the economy. That's important to know as you're building wealth through cash flow. Number five, we definitely left the property better than how we bought it. So there's a lot of cool rewarding things in addition to having cash flow to make properties better. I got a buddy who flips a lot of houses, and he says, I want to make the properties better. And he laughs, I like the money. So that's true. He likes to make things better, but he likes the money too. So cool comment with that. So why I'm sharing that with you, you might think, well, how did you buy this property without like checking it out all the time? So here's what I do first before I buy a property. And these comps, I'm going to go from the top left to the top right. Now, obviously, every market's different, how to read comps. I like, this is in Utah called the brief version. I use these older comps on purpose on this presentation because it reminds me of how cheap real estate was only 2 years ago. It's crazy. These properties now are probably going for $200 to $225. The cheapest ones, like what I would buy, the less expensive ones are probably going for $160, $175. So I'm going to use the west wing of 5109 Southwest Wind Avenue. If you'll notice, it's a split. I'm going left to right. It's a split level. It's 1,800 square feet. Split levels, we all know what those are. There's a thumbnail. The sold price is $115,000. It gives the coordinates, and there's no garage or carport. It's a I'm going back from left to right. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. It's 95% finished, and it sold. It was listed in November 22nd, 2013. To the right, July 28th, 2014, 1978. Okay, why is this important? As you build up your portfolio, you've got to learn how to analyze data. Real estate's a long-term play. I've been investing 14 years. I've read a lot of appraisals. I've vetted a lot of properties. I think you use a similar strategy to different markets. You got to learn comps. Sold comps are not the same as actives and under contracts. This version that I like, literally have the realtors, I have them send it to me from list price, the least expensive list price to the least expensive sold price, because it gives me an idea of what the market's doing. Okay, so if you'll notice on the sold price on the right, it's 115, 130, 124, 137, 156, 160, 29, etc. Okay, here's what's cool. All these comps are within 1 mile, are within 15 to 20% of the gross living area, and are sold within 90 days. Sometimes you'll go 120 if there's not a lot of comps, or you extend the search. Here's why I'm sharing this though. If you'll notice, these are all within the same area, okay? And you can look at the southwest coordinates, they're very, very similar. But you have sold comps of 156, 160, 29, 160, 165, 164, 172. The cool thing with this is you can literally, you can see that the values have increased. 115, 130, 124. Whoever bought those got screaming deals. 156, 160 to 172. Let's go to the next comps. 167, 167, 175, 170, 172, and 184. The reason why I'm sharing this with you is we just went from 115, 130, 130 already to the 180s. Then you have 184, 186, 180, 183, 191, and 184. So let's think about this. I'm going to work the numbers backwards, okay? So I shared a bunch of information for you to consider, and then we're going to work backwards. So number one, what does the ARV need to be to refinance off hard money? So good rule of thumb. You want to purchase properties at 75% of ARV because the lending guidelines recently just got more laxed. On properties 1 through 6, you're going to love this. On properties 1 through 6 with Freddie Mac, you can refinance at 80% loan to value on single family residencies. 80% loan to value on single family residencies. On properties 7 through 10, single family residencies, you can refinance at 75% loan to value. Those guidelines just barely changed. So why I'm bringing that up is if you think about it, if you buy your property with hard money, refinance and have a good equity position, your out-of-pocket is very minimal. Okay, remember your cash-on-cash return, you want to be at 75% loan to value. Now let's talk about a fix and flip. What price would you need to buy these properties for to fix and flip? So let's say the ARV after repair value, for the sake of math, is 180. Okay, remember, doubling that up or cutting in half, you're just adding numbers. So 180 grand ARV, you take 10% off the top, which is 18,000, is 162,000. Now let's say you want to make 12% of the profit from the sales price. For the sake of math, let's call it 20 grand. So 20 grand minus 162 is 142. Let's say it cost you 20 grand to fix up. Well, 20 grand gets you down to 122. Could you fix and flip a property at that price point? Yeah, they're more competitive at this time because some people are willing to work for less. With that being said, I know of a real estate investor who's willing to pay cash on properties and only make 10 grand because the guy's bored. And we actually have a property that we're moving right now, looking to close tomorrow, that because he has his own cash and he's bored, he's willing to make 10 grand. What's cool with that is you got to know what increased value helps you out with your comps. So what about, on those examples real quick, what if we push the value to 185? Well, you can pay a little more. What if you push the value to 190? Important. You got to look at actives and under contract to see if your market has an upswing, it's flat, or going down. So why is this important with cash flow? It's a lot of stuff to learn, which is fun because it's a lifestyle to complement your portfolio with what you're doing now. So a couple of things I don't think are extremely important. In Utah, GLA, and I believe everywhere, actually all appraisals, GLA means gross living area. In Utah, though, it's common to have basements. The price per square foot is less important here in most markets versus the GLA. So GLA, gross living area, it's more important to have more square footage above grade, okay? It's also worth more if you remodel it versus finishing a basement. So, cool example. Both of these properties have 2,000 square feet. Which one do you think is worth more? Okay, so which one is worth more is the property on the left has a 2-car garage, has a chimney, so has a fireplace, and is 1,400 square feet above grade and 600 square feet in the basement. The property on the right is 1,000 square feet on the main floor and 1,000 square feet in the basement. Also has a fireplace, as you guys can see on the right, and a 2-car garage. So if you think property A is worth more, I want you to email me that. Or you think property B is worth more, I want you to email me that. Okay? Good feedback with this. It's important for you guys to know. Which one's worth more? Property A. And knowing that helped me make a couple $10,000 to $15,000 more on some flips this year in the last couple years because I knew the total GLA was worth more. Okay? what's cool with that is I'm giving you an example of a property that by using my brain and being proactive, it made it way better. So what's cool with this property is you can tell I opened up the wall and gave the open concept look. And by refinishing the cabinets and the countertops, it looks awesome. And I also provided vinyl versus tile in the bathroom or in the kitchen, which is really, really cool. So why I'm sharing that with you is, yes, you might be wondering, why aren't you putting tile in all these houses? Because tile is freaking expensive. Let's talk about cash flow. If I have 300 feet, I'm going to let you guys write this down as an exercise. Let's say the first 22 properties I bought had 300 feet of tile each. That's 6,600 feet. Now, 6,600 feet times, let's call it $3 a foot for tile and laminate, plus $5 a foot, and I understand some markets are cheaper or less, but $5 a foot for the labor, that cost me $8 a foot. $8 a foot times 6,600, I'm doing the math right now. What did you guys come up with? Do math. Almost done. My calculator's backwards. Yeah, it's like 5,300. I'm rounding up a little. The reason why I'm bringing this up is $53,000. Sorry, I forgot the zero. I'm doing it myself. That's a lot of money spending on tile. Let's just say we reduce the tile and put in vinyl. For vinyl, I can do $2 a foot, so that's pretty easy math. $2 a foot times 6,600, we'll call it $13,000. I'd rather have $40,000 in my pocket to buy like 2 more houses. So cash flow is so important. With that being said, on flips, sometimes you need to put, sorry about that. On flips, there we go. That bathroom's hammered on the left. And this is the same kitchen bathroom, actually. It's freaking sick. We changed the plumbing side and made it more contemporary. As you guys notice, we totally changed the configuration. I don't know what they were thinking in the 30s and the 20s. They had some weird floor plans. But it's important. This is an example of a flip. $2 tile, and it looks good. It's always trendy. Tiles change. But it's really, really important to take that into consideration. As we're wrapping this up, how do I increase my value the most? Okay. Well, let's think about this. How do you increase your cash flow the most? Number 1, you buy better. Number 2, pay less interest. Number 3, consult with people who've done it more than you. So number 1, buy better. Number 2, pay less interest. Number 3, consult with people who've done it more than you. How do I increase my value? Here's the 5 things that I like increasing the value the most. Paint, kitchen, bathroom, windows, carpet. There's a lot of moving parts with that. A roof, brand new roof, really doesn't increase your value. Solar panels, in at least our market, the cost of the solar panels versus increasing the value is really, really minimal. The reason why I'm bringing this up, though, is just like increasing cash flow, as you increase rent over time and get better at property management, or you earn more income, it's all about knowledge and implementation. Here's the biggest key for me, what I've been able to do. Oops. Fat thumbs. All right, so adding square footage without adding on. So adding square footage without adding on. Sorry about that. Oh, you guys will be okay. I got my wrong buttons going on. Adding square footage without adding on is super important, and the reason why is because you can add you can add heat to an area to make it better. So a cool trick that we do, by adding heat to an area, we add square footage. Now, different municipalities have different codes. You definitely need to know what those codes are. But why I'm bringing this up is you need to know with what that information is. So all this tying it in. I'm going to tie this in for a minute of how this is important. How do I get started? Well, you're already on this call. You saw that I made mistakes. It's okay. You can learn from my mistakes. And I'm talking about the PowerPoint presentation. I'm not talking about me putting too much tile in. I got a sense of humor too. But why I'm bringing this up is there's a lot of different ways to add value with real estate, with your asset, and with the people you work with. Being on this call with Patrick Donahoe goes a long way. You're wanting to cash flow, increase it, increase more wealth. Here's a big, big tip that I would share. Write big goals and actually write them down and reevaluate your goals on a quarterly and a monthly basis and actually annually. And I'd also do a lot of, if I were you, I would vet who you consult with. I would vet who you consult with at a local and a national level. I've always got multiple coaches that I coach with. Strategic Coach is one. Keith Cunningham is one. Garrett White is one. Kerry Johnson's one. Being in a mastermind is one. There's a lot of stuff you can do. Why I'm bringing this up is a cool thing that we're sharing with you because you're on this call is we have another complimentary workshop that we share. It's how to turn 15,000 into 200. And what I do is I break down if you're wanting to fix and flip to increase your cash flow. We talk about those mechanics. If you're wanting to buy and hold to increase your long-term cash flow, we break down those mechanics. But what's really cool with that information is you can use this in all markets. Obviously, you're adding a zero or cutting a price in half, or you can use them with where you want to go. But what's cool and what's amazing is there's a lot of people like you that want to learn. There's a lot of people who know what to do. You just have to vet them and find the right person. So with that being said, what you can do to get the second workshop complimentary is just email me at matt@mjare.com, or you can hit our website, mjrealconsulting.com. In the subject line, put Wealth Summit, and then write down those notes or those comments with what I shared so you can get better with investing and then also take advantage of everyone's knowledge or opportunity with their time. So we appreciate what you did and appreciate your time, and we look forward to having you guys increase your net worth. Last comment, you can't measure what you don't track. It's all about the tracking and getting where you want. So thanks for your call. Go Cubs. Hope you guys have a great day. Thanks. Bye.